Interest rates, they didn't increase it on demand accounts where, the money flips over, very quickly. You had to get that money back in by going out a year, 2 years, maybe 2.5 years, and therefore they're now stuck with the fact that they increased those rates. At the same time, most banks, certainly the regionals, have a certain sizable amount of fixed rate securities that they own, and fixed rate, mortgages and fixed rate auto loans.
Right.
So you can't increase the yield on the loan side, whereas you've already stuck yourself by increasing the cost of deposits on the other side.
Right, so they're stuck between a rock and a hard place. I guess the question, Dick, and Catherine kind of referenced this, is the comparison to what happened in March 2023 is kind of inevitable. Do you see any potential Silicon Valley banks or First Republic in the batch of regional banks that will be reporting?
No, I think that the financial structure of the banking industry right now, forced by the regulators, is extraordinarily good. I mean, you have a high degree of liquidity in these banks in the form of cash, of treasuries, of other, federal funds. So basically, they're not at risk of failure. The fundamental problem is that they can't compete. Right? In other words, if you're in an industry and you can't compete because you're the high cost producer, because you've got a tremendous amount of regulations, and you're again operating against companies
Right.
which are not being regulated, that are not having the same type of, if you will, structural issues, then you can't compete. And if you can't compete, you can't make a lot of money, and you can't, if you will, increase your share of market at all.
Right,
So
right.
that's the issue.
If you can't compete, when do you see M&A starting to pick up then, or starting to really kick off for these smaller banks that can't compete?
Well, I mean, essentially, I think if the Federal Reserve would let it happen, it would be happening right now. I think you would see that occurring. But what's the point of buying small banks? Who wants to buy them? In other words, if you're really looking at what's going on in the banking industry, you have to focus on Citigroup, because Citigroup understands that this can't compete issue exists. And so what Citigroup is doing is moving into areas where it can compete. It's moving into business services. It's moving into, capital markets, investment banking. And therefore, if you're a bank, like PNC today, if you're a bank and you're going to go out and go buy a whole bunch of smaller banks, you're simply intensifying the problem. What you have to do is make use of your holding company structure and move it to other areas, finance, private equity, a series of non-interest income businesses where you don't have the regulatory problem that doesn't allow you to compete. You have to move. You've got to move the structure of your business. And as I say, Citigroup is doing that. Buying other small banks would be totally ridiculous.
All right, I'm going to have to leave it there, Dick. Always great to get your insights. Dick Beauvais over at Odeon Capital. A look at the big bank earnings that we've just gotten. Quite a few earnings on deck over the next few days, including from Citizens, U.S. Bancorp, Schwab, as well as some of the credit card companies like Discover. Stick with us. We're going to set you up for where markets will have their eye on over the next 24 hours. This is The Close on Bloomberg.